Hey everybody, I am Tommy Scoble, and you were on the lifeboat. Check out who I found. I was I was on the way down to the chow hall, and he was wandering around looking lost. I said, "Hey man, follow me back. I got a bag of hooch under the bed. I'm gonna throw some cards, slam them down loud on the table, cause some problems." No, we come here, people. This is gonna be a once a week thing. We come here and it's an opportunity for people to fire questions off. That if you got questions about prison in any way, shape, or form, these could be state prison, this could be federal prison, because we've got inmates here that have done both federal and state time. Gonna rob a bank. There you go. Indigo gets it. It's really funny. My friend Jack, you would think that the feds with things like tapping a phone or whatever be really good at it. And I would call my mom, or I would call my dad or my brother, just a normal phone call. I'd call Jack and it would go like the loudest snap you ever heard. And it was like 2 seconds after he'd pick up, right? So you knew you were being taped. And I'd say, "Hey, what are you doing, man?" He'd go, "Nothing. I got an hour for lunch." You feel like knocking off a bank. And you know that wherever they are, they're like, everybody's listening in. And it was just the stupidest. We got everybody mad. It didn't really help. All right, we're going to yell some hello to some people, and then we'll get this thing underway. How cool is that dog? That dog's name is Lily, Indigo Insights. And the story's pretty cool. He saved that. You boys come around here often. Good to see you, Relatable Reese. It's my girlfriend. We got Lynn Sanity, Indigo's Insights. Robert Hall, how are you? Jason P., you are a gentleman and a scholar. Shelly Kelly, big love for Shelly Kelly. Jane Aldrich, what's happening? I'm old, and while I may not pee as often, I can't type worth a darn. Well, there you go. That actually sounds like it makes a whole lot of sense. Diane, how are you? Hamster Heifer, good to see you. Mama Mia, what's happening? Kara Barnhart, Michael J. Helena, Flock of Swan Boats. Always love that name. Yep, Lily, see, they get it. Ivy's mama, Nappy from Canada, an honor. Layla, got me on my knees, Layla. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this chat, too. It's always fun getting together with friends. Angie Barnes, good to see you. Brenda, what's happening? Dee Dee Razzle Dazzle. Yes, we are gentlemen, believe it or not. Lacey Silver, good to see you. Kristen Melinda, she's got talent. She really does. She's sharp. Shannon Smith, good to see you. Rick Spicer, thank you for coming over, Rick. That was awesome today, man. I really appreciate you. Darcy, how are you? I live for now. You know what? A lot of you came over across the pond to watch while I did Mr. Atwood's show. And I'll tell you what, man, nothing. I cannot stress this. Nothing is cooler than that. So when that was over today, they reached out to me. And the first thing he said was, "Man, you bring an entire crew with you when you come." He said, "You got a whole audience that comes with you." He's like, "And they're great people." I said, "You have no idea." La Camellia, right. Good to see you. But you guys represented the lifeboat so toughly. Swedish Lena, good to see you. Purple Ivy, what's happening? Shannon Smith, good to see you. This is no joke, right? Hey, 7th, that's a really big deal to me. So I do really want to thank you. It's exciting when you look out into the audience, and the audience looks a lot like your channel, And it was funny because he said, "Man, you must have brought 1,000 people over with you." And I thought, right, yeah, probably not. But what happened is, if you bring 200 lifeboaters, they're going to make 800 other people look like lifeboaters real quick. You know what I mean? For real. It's a very positive, uplifting group of people. And when they get in there and start being really kind and lifting people up, it gets really, really wild. It really does. Not sure what's cuter, Tommy's hat or the pup. You know something? You must really like this hat. Kim Roy, Justine, good to see you, because that's the cutest puppy I've ever seen in my life. If I had that dog, I wouldn't get anything done. I'm not kidding. Because number one, you can just stare at him forever, right? And number two, if you go to the store, it's not like this dog's got to stay home. I mean, look at the size of it. It really is like that thing would fit in a teacup. But
she's
Russ
smaller than that flap. Yeah, she's smaller than that flap in the top. Yeah. I carry her in the gas station, Walmart. It's funny.
She really is and loves the cat. The fact that I've been really blessed. I don't know if you saw the pictures of the new kitty and bug tussle.
Yeah,
but he's grooving to Moose. So pay attention, everybody. This is the part where Tommy goes, "I told you so." And just let Moose be. He's a kid, and he's aging so quick that if you give him 2 more weeks, he's going to start acting like an adult. But I knew we had a lock when a new cat came in, because all of a sudden Moose ain't a new cat. right? It's just like a convict. How many times you seen this? I'm not kidding. A guy comes into the unit and he's like gun shy, he looks terrified, but if the next day, that fool will act like he's been there for 10 years, right? He's using everybody's name, high-fiving, trying to, because he would like to look the part, you know what I mean?
In the middle of the weight pile.
That's it. Miss Dragon, good to see you. JD, good to see you. You know what? The weight pile, so that when I did my state rip, we had, no joke, right? Huge yard, massive yard. Probably the longest walk to the chow hall from the farthest unit out was about a half a mile round trip. It's a real big, track. But that was one of those, that the state yard's really a whole lot different. Hold on one second.
It is.
Yeah, Marie Marion. I had a pretty good time in the state, honestly. I mean, as far as prisons go, that was my first experience, and I thought it was going to be so much worse than it was. I really did. Like, I had this in my head that, it was going to be god awful. And when I got in there, and I mean, there was dope, and there were people partying, and there were guys making wine, and you could smoke. You could buy tobacco at the commissary. So it was a really different time and a different way to do time. We had television sets in the cells. Like, it was really, really different. Yeah.
Yeah. You got a good program down, you're good to go.
Yeah.
And then that was before they started putting everybody in the gymnasiums and, having 300 cards, 400 cards, My uncle had a 500 card. You know what that is, right?
Yeah, I do. It's insane.
All right. Yep.
Thank you, Boris Cruz. What a kind thing to say. Russ, as far as people smuggling contraband into the prisons, one of the things that I've been telling people recently is that the smuggling changed massively because of Suboxone, right? Because they can get a strip in there. If you hit with a big load and you would not, so they will mail in legal work and you'll put a pouch, right? So there'll be 1,000 pages of legal work, and one of them will have an extra piece of paper glued, so it's like a little pouch, and they'll put 25, 35 strips into that little pouch or more, and then they fold all that over on the top, and you see the cops go through it, because in legal mail, they can't read it. It's private stuff. So all they can do is kind of go through it, and they'll shake it, and if the person's good at it, that'll do it. I've seen magazines. Like, magazines no longer will let you have the perfume stuff because the perfumes used to be stacked. Yeah, all of that.
National Geographics were good for that.
No question, right?
Yep. I mean, a lot of people have attorneys coming in, and then the back of a book, if you had it sent in, the spine. They do the spine. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Yep, that's huge. And back in the day, they made it really easy because you could go to a place like Borders Books and buy a book and have them send it in to the prison. So you would buy a book, take it home, load it up, and reverse steal it. Put it down your pants, walk in with it down your pants, and then buy the book again. And then you open up the inside and they write, "To Russ, right from the Lifeboat. We love you, brother. Keep your chin up, blah, blah." Now they can't put that book back on the shelf and mail a different one, right? So they would mail that in. And as long as it looked tight, it was coming from the book publisher or whatever, you could get in that way. Those days are over, and I saw a hustle where paint. So I was at a yard, and Jack actually pulled this off, but I was at a yard and Jack sent in paperwork that said, we're a brand new company that manufactures paint, but we do it right in Arizona. This is when I was at Phoenix. And we sent you some samples. You can use them or you can throw them out or whatever. And they were about this big. And the guy's like, "Pop them, open them up. Let me see." And we brought them in and he's stirring them and everything else. He's like, "Hey, if they want to send us stuff, just put it on the shelf. And when next time we paint an eggshell, we'll use it." So next, about 4 more came in. And that fool just said, "Just go put them on the shelf with the others." And every one of them had cell phones in it and dope in it. And that worked. That worked for a while. But like everything else, you know how that got bummed out, right? Somebody that was unhappy that my particular group of people had money, drugs, and cell phones. That was about the end of that. Happens a lot.
Well, we used to get the quarterly packages too.
Oh, see, we never ever had a shot.
Reseal the cans. Oh yeah. You can do that.
Never in the state that you could get packages, but in the feds, they just don't do that.
Yeah.
Once a week, the Squirrel and Lily show. Hell yes. Hell yes.
Thank you.
I'll tell you another one. Yeah, the trash cans. Another one that really worked out pretty well was they had these ceramic shops. So you would go and make a lamp or a vase or any of those things, right? And you pack it in the box and you get it all perfect. And you say, I want to send this thing out because they're not going to let you keep any of that in your cell, right? So you send it off to your people, and your people get that thing, right? And they take it and they put another one in it that's packed with everything inside of it, and they write on it, wrong address, return to sender. Now it goes back to the prison, and they're going to open that thing up and they're going to look at it. They're not going to break it, right? So as long as the thing is close enough, a lot of stuff got through that way. But it was crazy because when the guy ratted everybody out, they waited. They didn't go raid cells. They didn't do anything. They let 4 or 5 packages back up in there before they called the people down, and they just busted one right after the other. They take the thing out, smash it, pull all the contraband out. You know, it's always that somebody rats it out. They're not that slick with their detecting and all of that. They really aren't. If you hide it in plain sight.
Yeah, the level ones, they used to be right next to the road. In California, people would throw handballs, you know, all kinds of stuff right over the fence.
Yeah,
they wouldn't double check a handball.
No, the FCI here in Tucson, the first night that I was on the yard, I got there super early in the morning, and I went down to chow. And when you come back, it's a walking path. It's only about a foot wide. It's not like anything you've ever seen, and it goes in between olive trees, and it's the craziest crap in the world. And you get within maybe a foot of the fence, and you can see the parking lot on the other side. It looks more like a condo complex. And as I'm walking, I hear thump, and it was a soccer ball, and that thing hit the ground like it was not a soccer ball, man. Like that thing hit with some weight. Yeah. And a guy behind me said, yeah, you should never turn around and look at things when you hear, but it's, you know, I want to make sure I ain't getting stabbed or whatever. And the guy behind me, just cool as hell, said, keep walking, dog. I know what unit you're in. I'll help you out. Just keep walking, keep walking. I was like, okay, no problem. But they throw stuff over the fence at you in a really big way.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for your support, by the way. I love people in green. Yeah, ratting someone out would put a bullseye on you, wouldn't it? Absolutely. But rats come in a couple of different varieties, and a lot of times they're well taken care of, you know?
Yep.
They're well taken care of. There are people that have managed to be, rats in there for a really long time. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, and they'll tell you, you know, you go in and they'd be like, yeah, that's so-and-so. That don't talk to that dude. He's no good. And I'd go, if he's no good, why aren't you crushing him? And they go, because you never know who the next dude that's going to get in there and rat is. But we know he's a rat. So you'd rather have him down there, make sure no one talks to him, right? Make sure he gets as little info as possible. And it's pretty scary, but it's, you know, everybody talks a great game, but if you look at what percentage of people behind bars cut a deal, it would absolutely blow your mind, especially in the federal system. You can Google it. It's awful.
He would be eventually taken out.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can't do that consistently and not have something really bad happen to you. It's just the way it works. You know? Almost got arrested doing raptor surveys by the Chinos Men's Correctional in Southern California. We had maps, binoculars, and we're watching the fence at a red-tailed hawk. Oh, yeah, that'll make you real popular around a prison. Pop up with a pair of binoculars and get near a fence. Oh, man, that's funny. Kestrel, that's great. Okay. Will you gentlemen share stories about interesting people? Okay, here you go. Who is the most? Who would you consider the most interesting cat you met in prison? I can't hear you, brother. Are you muted? Anybody else here?
All right, there you go.
There you go. Now I can hear you. There you go.
All right. I think other than my cellmate that I ended up with, the shot caller, I met a guy in Central that was gone. He killed like 2 or 3 people. And then I met another one at Donovan when I was there. This guy killed a number of people. I don't remember how many, but they used to call him Q. His last name was LeQ. And he had hair down to his back, and he was only like 5'6", 120 pounds, but he was dangerous. He was
Yeah.
just flat out dangerous. He was nuts. But I think everybody really had to keep an eye on him. Then there was a few of the higher brothers that come down from level 4, level 5, old school level 4, level 5,
Yep.
and walking around the yard. They come from level 5 where they walk with a gate, down the tier in front of all the cells.
Yeah.
So I've met some pretty interesting people. Cooks, all kinds
Yeah,
of cooks.
they tend to, honestly, I think you'd be blown away at how many really interesting people, because it's not like the outside world where you might meet someone and say, you got an interesting story, and they could go, I don't know. Like, you ever watch the game shows and you have to say one thing interesting about yourself, and they'll be like, he once went to a party and said this or this. And you're like, that's the most interesting thing you could come up with. Everybody in prison at least got a pretty good story of how they got busted. If that's all, that's a pretty interesting story.
Yeah, I used to write letters for this one guy. Clifford was his name, but he was big, huge guy, big old beard, old biker. He burnt down the San Bernardino parole office. Wow. He was mad at him. Yeah, or set it afire or something like that. I used to write his letters with him. I used to sit down because he couldn't write. So I would write his daughter for him, write down what he would say. He was cool to be around, man. Some giant, ginormous guys. Stroker, a big old biker. Oh yeah. They were just softer than hot butter in the pen, but they were cool.
Yeah. But I met a couple of people that fascinated me. I met a guy that was a friend of Q's, right? So Q said to me, "Hey, I got a friend coming down to the library." He's like, "I'll introduce you because the dude's famous." And we get down there, and I'm not kidding you, I don't think he broke 5 feet, right?
Really?
This guy was probably 4'8", 4'9". He was so short that it really got your attention, right? He was shorter than Tom Cruise. And so I talked to him, and he went like this, and he talked in the most gentle, right? And we talked for a little while, and he was asking questions about the stock market. And when he finally left, one of the cops goes, "Is that not a gentle dude?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Have you ever seen New Jack City?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "That's the guy they based that film on." He's like, "No joke." I said, "He's the most soft-spoken guy in the whole world." He goes, "Yeah." And he used to go, "Take that guy outside and kill him." He's like, as soft-spoken as it gets. But he had actually taken over they took over an apartment complex and turned it into a crack house. And that is what he got busted for. And then, of course, they made the Nino Brown character based on him. And he said to me, the only things we had in common is I took over a project and turned it into a crack house. He said, but not to the degree and the scope. But his case was incredible. He was a fascinating dude. And there was a guy named Charles Little Nut Miller, and you can look that name up. Charles Little Nut Miller. He was part of the Jamaican shower posse, and they used to call him that because they were showering fools with lead down in Miami. He got real bad during the cocaine days. And this guy was the king of it. Like, he was the top of the top, and he got busted and got life. But he was just an interesting cat, because about once a year, this guy would stop taking his meds. And when he would stop taking his meds, he would come up to people and go, "Hey, man, what's your register number?" And I'd be like, "Why do you want my register number?" You know what I mean? Like, what's up? You got a problem? He's like, "No, I'm putting a couple of bucks on everybody's books. I want everybody in here." And this guy was dropping $3 and $4 grand. Like, he had money somewhere, and he was just throwing it around. And when he would get into the manic stuff, it would get bizarre. He would go to the wrong unit and sit down on the ground, or he'd take his shoes off and walk around the yard. Just some bizarre stuff. But he was fascinating to have in a unit, for real. Sadly, I think some of the people that were most interesting were really pretty damaged goods. There was a guy that he did the whole sovereign citizen thing, right?
Oh, man.
And yeah, but he would talk about it 16 hours a day, 365 days a year. I'm not exaggerating. If his mouth was moving, that's the only thing he could talk about. And I would never let him get a hold of my ear. Like, if I had to jump off of a tier to not let that fool start a conversation, because you live and learn only once, right? But I used to love watching other people, especially new ones. You know what I mean? They come up and be like, "Hey, man, what days do you guys do store?" And I would nudge the guy next to me and go, "Watch this poor bastard, dude, because he's going to be sitting there 3 hours from now hearing about, Article 2 of the Constitution." It's like, oh, Lord,
it states right here.
Yeah.
He spends all his
And
time in the law library.
that's it. And you would say to these people, hey, man, do the math. If everything you're saying is real and the guy that's saying this, why are we here? Right? They're sitting there preaching to everybody, they got no right to have us incarcerated. Well, you'll notice I've been here for a 10-year piece at this point.
Right.
They're going to keep us here. Trust me.
Right.
But yeah, it's bizarre. Del Plummer's got a comment that is interesting. And I think this has to do with the Diddy case and all that. You notice you can't find a star to even say Diddy, right? You can't find anybody to say his name. People are deleting their entire Twitter feeds, right? Going back, some of them millions of followers because they don't want a picture of them standing with that fool or being at one of his parties. It's kind of crazy. You know what? I understand this. I really do. For the same reason that I'm fascinated by Scientology, or for the same reason that I'm fascinated because it's a world that doesn't make sense to us, right?
Right.
Because you've never been inside. It's like this whole thing is happening and there's millions of people living this way in our country. And it's a whole different world and a different thing. It makes sense to me completely. It's why I never get bummed out if someone wants to ask questions about prison. I understand why they would want to ask questions. Thank you, AB. How funny is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kathy had a good question for me.
Okay, give it.
I'm trying to find it.
Okay, Kathy. Kathy's usually got good questions.
Yeah, she does. Oh, yeah. Do you see it?
No, get it. If you got it, read it.
I saw a great documentary on HA. Several of them spent time at Corcoran. Were you there? Did you meet some of them? Oh, where I was, did I meet some of them? No, I ran into quite a few of them. I mean, old school, but none of the new school. But you have to understand, I had uncles that were all involved in that life. So I didn't have to go to prison to meet anybody. I just kind of did my own thing. They were everywhere.
Biggest dude I ever saw incarcerated was a 1%er from that particular organization. And they had wooden jail doors, right, at this county jail in Nevada. And this fool literally kicked one in half, like from the very top to the very bottom. He splintered that thing out and it fell. And there were 6 cops looking at him like this.
Yeah.
Like, oh, God, now what? And,
the cops wouldn't go after my cellie. I mean, not my cellie because of just who he is, but there was one dude who was a lifer who was the brother of a friend of mine on the street, Elwood. And that dude, I had never seen anybody sling hands like that before in my life. He knocked 8 dudes out of the opposite, color in the middle of a problem. So he was dangerous. Flat out, was a super cool guy, but you didn't want him to cross him.
I got 99 problems, but he ain't one. I'll tell you what, man. There's a lot of smoke about who the next people to go are. Don't get this messed up. For those people who are out there going, the only person that's going to get hemmed up on this is how come they haven't arrested anybody else? Listen, people, they're having meetings right now, and they sound like this. They say stuff like, "Hey, Russ, would you like to be a defendant or would you like to be a witness?" I mean, that's going to be their icebreaker with every person they sit down, because anybody that worked for him is in this thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking about the guys who ride V-twins who then end up getting incarcerated. And I literally mean outlaw biker gangs. There's a lot of them behind bars.
They're an elite part of a group. They are the ones that have put in work to get higher status. So they are people you do not want to mess with. You don't want to disrespect. Because they're respectful, but they just don't
question. Yep.
Nope.
And they're one of the few groups in my experience, it's like especially in the feds, they lay it down while they're incarcerated. And what I mean by that is they're not looking for other organizations and other groups that they beef with on the street, because none of them are trying to do any more time behind bars. So like they get in there, and you would never want to say something bad about their club, but they're not out there politicking or trying to get bigger or patch people or do any of that. They're just dudes who real respectfully do their time. I always loved it when there was 3 or 4 of them in a unit. right?
Yep.
For real.
They were cool. I got some of my tat work done by one of them or one of their affiliates, and I never had any problem with them. They always were down right there. Old time heroin addicts.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's
But they were
amazing how many
always
old
nice.
convicts are strung out on dope.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
is. It's horrifying.
A lot of guys paroled and then just ran just to come back because they knew they could. They could do anything they wanted.
Yeah.
It was
And like I said, there is absolutely a level of respect, and I never saw any real drama out of them in the time that I did, except for one. There was a kid that came in, and he had a tattoo on his hand, right about here, right, that he picked off the wall at a tattoo shop, and it's not a tattoo you should pick off the wall unless you happen to belong to the club that happens to be associated with him. They refer to it normally as the death's head, and he had it on his hand. And these guys were great. I mean, they walked up to him and said, "Hey, where'd you get that?" He's like, "Oh, I picked it off of a wall." Like he didn't realize at all. And the guy said to him, "Yeah, that's unfortunate, you know." And he's like, "You or anybody else, dude, you'd lose your hand." He's like, "But they're going to give him an opportunity to remove it." And he went down to the wood shop and they took it off with a belt sander. And it was his idea, not theirs, because he was so freaked out about what was going to happen if he didn't get rid of it that, like, with everyone standing there, he's like, "What about a belt sander?" He's like, "Got to be like that." And I thought, you're a bad man.
Just cover it up.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm like, brother, what if we just put a big black box right there on your hand or a glove? Castro, great question. And the answer is it's a microcosm inside as it is outside. Now, are they going to cut the stuff a little more so they can make more money going in? In some places, the big homies are going to get real upset if they think you're tap dancing on their stuff, right? They don't want stuff stepped on at all. But there are people dropping like flies behind the fence. You're not hearing it, but they're dropping like flies. The number of people that are ODing inside right now, it's an epidemic. But you're not going to be hearing a whole lot about it because these are throwaways, right? This is the scum of the earth.
Dummies.
That's right. Crash test dummies, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's coming straight over the border right in.
See, look at this. I respect all gangsters. I make them laugh, and they're like, "Yeah, you're cool." You know something? Very often, it doesn't take a whole lot more than being kind, being respectful. You know, I remember when you start talking to people and try to explain to them what it's like behind bars, you know, they say, "Yeah, I understand that the races hate each other." I'm like, "Yeah, no, that's not really how it is." You know, it really isn't.
It's not.
The feds, the level of respect between the races would blow you away. They just don't hang out with one another at all because you're not allowed to. But there's no disrespect at all, man. It's just not done that way. And if you're disrespectful to somebody of another race, your boys are gonna beat the brakes off of you because you're gonna cause problems that nobody wants, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
This is there. You would not believe there are lawyers out there. I had a friend, a very close friend, who was a gangster for all intents and purposes. He worked with an organization, and all they did was commit crimes, right? And he had an attorney, and he said to me, "I don't know how you could. This is a very well-known attorney, really well-known, like on phone books and everything else, right?" And I said, "I can't believe you could afford that fool, man." And he goes, "Oh, I gave him a kilo." And I was like, "You're playing with me, right?" He's like, "Absolutely not." When he came in, he said, "You got money?" I said, "I don't. I just got busted." He goes, "You got anything you could throw?" He's like, "I got a kilo." The guy said, Shoot it. Yeah, you'll be really surprised. And I'm not saying they're all that way. Trust me, they're not. But the ones that go rogue, right? They will bring in, you won't believe the contraband. If you get a bad lawyer, you would not believe what they will do for a person. I know of lawyers that got caught going in and handing this to their client so that their client could arrange a hit on the street. That kind of crap happens. A dirty lawyer is worse than a dirty CO because even though when you go in to meet with your attorney, you're in an MP room that's got a glass door behind you, but they cannot listen to you, right? They cannot intrude on a lawyer and a client talking in any way. So you can lean in and say, you know, hey man, did you bring the dope? Like there's nowhere else you can have a conversation like that and feel like you're not in trouble.
Right.
You know what? Thank you so much, by the way, JD. And look at this. This is actually, I tell you what, man, this is real. This is real. My friend used to say that to me all the time. He'd look around at the room and go, everybody here, man, you know, they were wiping these kids' butts and, you know, talking about how they're beautiful and perfect. And did my ex-wife ever sneak anything in for you? You know what? I'd love to tell you a good story, but the truth of the matter was she had a hell of a lot of respect at that time for her bar card, right? Mm-hmm. She went off the deep end and did an awful lot of stupid stuff later on. But at the time, no, there was none of that. In fact, there was never a kiss. One of the craziest things ever was she reached out once while we were talking and grabbed my hand in a way that a lawyer wouldn't. And the second she did it, it was like my hand was 470 degrees. Like she ripped that hand back so fast, like, what the hell did I do? I'm like, take a deep breath. I think you're all right. You know what I mean? I'm twice as wide as you. They're not seeing what you just did, but yeah, she did nothing. She really didn't do anything.
Back when I was in, you could have the conjugal visits. So
I can't believe that.
Was, guys would come back with a cane that couldn't walk couldn't bend their knees, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah.
They were just, tipped up guys or guys that were affiliated, or, you know, the next month, everybody's nodding off on the yard, or they're doing 1,600 laps around. And, you know, it was crazy. So,
you know what? Life is a dream. And here's the thing. It happens, right? I was telling somebody a story, somebody whose channel I was on. We were talking about horror stories before we went live. And I knew a good guy, white collar criminal. I mean, white collar. He was doing deals with the government to purchase, where the government was buying things, and he was fixing the contracts. And he got a crappy little 4-year white collar sentence. And he got in a fist fight his second day in prison. And within 2 months, he had moved up to a penitentiary in points. And he got sent off to Lewisburg. And when the Lewisburg riot broke off there, they said, you're down or you're not. And he knew what happens if you say no, right? He was like, no, give me a piece. I'm with you boys. And he went out there and he said, you know, I kind of figured I'd be able to stand on the outside of it, you know, not really get in the middle of it. He goes, and I got out there and there was no outside of it. He's like, everywhere you look, there was mayhem. And it was just, he said, so I defended myself and got a 30-year sentence, you know, and the crazy thing is, so this guy went in, he was a square, right? By the time I met this dude, he had 2 years to the gate. And that fool was a convict. You know what I mean? Like he was working every angle. And he said, I wasn't a criminal when I came to prison. I promise you I wasn't. And you see that crap a lot, don't you?
Right.
Guys that come in that really shouldn't be there.
You know? Yep. Just like Shawshank.
Yeah.
I didn't break the law on the street. I had to come to prison to be a criminal. What's the worst thing about prison? And is there a best? Walking out is the best. Being able to walk out.
The best and the worst. Honestly, here's the best. It gives people an opportunity to look at themselves for who they really are. Right. Every single other thing in your life will get stripped away from you. So the only thing you got is the fact that you're sitting there. And it gives you tons of time to reflect. It gives you tons of time to work on who you are. That's a beautiful thing. The worst thing is that while you're doing that, the world is forgetting you.
Yeah.
And that's loved ones. That's all kinds of people. You're being forgotten. And that's a really hard thing for a lot of people, you know? And I think that's probably the separation from those you love is the worst thing. But I cannot begin to tell you the number of people that I know who have absolutely turned their life around because of prison. You know, the number of people that will say to you, the best thing that ever happened to me, right, was going to the joint. And that may sound ridiculous, but it's a recurring theme. You know, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. You know, not the second one, unfortunately. I wish I could have picked that up on the first rip, Russ. I think it would have been a whole lot nicer if I could have picked that thing up on the first rip, but it didn't work out.
my deal was that I thought every prison was going to be like California, and then I caught the other case and did the 3 years in the other state, and it was totally different.
I would imagine it was totally different, right? And
It
you're going
was.
in there without everybody you know, right?
Right. Well, I actually had family in there too, cousins.
Is that
But
right?
yeah, crazy. But it is different because, I come from a prison where very segregated, very one-sided, and this prison wasn't. So, I had
Yeah.
to do my moves on my own and figure things out, but it was all right.
Yeah. This is a great question. How do prisoners, the term
Uh-huh.
often used in there is take yourself out or kill yourself. They say that one a lot, but I know what you're saying. How do you rub one out? And because it is going to be one of those things that eventually is going to get to you. If you got a great celly, you just go,
Yeah.
hey, bro, why don't you go to the yard? I'm going to stay back.
Yeah.
He's not going to go, why? He's going to go, oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
man, yep, I'll be back.
Towel in the window, TV off, real dark in there. You
Yeah,
can even hang up
exactly.
a
Right.
sheet, hang up a sheet at the end of your bed.
Where it gets really tough is when you get 3 years, right? You catch a 3-year rip on solitary, or on smooth time, where you're going to be in a shoe with a cellmate every single day for 3 years, right? And what happens is, like, if there's a shower in the cell, then you probably use the shower. If
Right.
there's not, you only get to go to a shower 3 days a week, and your homeboy will be like, "I'm staying back, have a good time." Right?
Yep.
I'll be gone about an hour and a half because that's how long it takes for them to take you out and bring you back to your shower. So it's like, all
Only
right,
takes about 3 minutes, but it's
that's
all
right.
good.
Yeah, it's all
fast.
good. But you know what it comes down to is respect. Always and
Yeah.
everything respect. I know a guy whose cellmate decided to do that while laying above him in his rack, and figured he was asleep or whatever. And that kind of stuff doesn't ever end well, man. It does not ever end well. It's disrespectful, and he almost killed dude.
Yeah.
Not a. You really want to be, if you default to respect. Honestly, you're going to get through. You may not get through. Yeah, you may not get through. There's a lot of ways to get through. Honestly, like people make it sound like there's two types of getting through, right? And one is you're solid and you're in there and you're going nuts, right? Or you're a piece of crap and you got whacked off the yard. And there are dudes that spend a whole lot of time looking down, right? Guys spend a whole lot of time looking at their shoes and they just kind of kick it with lames and try to stay as far away from anything that could go bad. And there are guys that do time that way. It's it would have to be really hard. I can't imagine, but yeah.
Yeah, there's guys. I mean, you get to a certain age and you're pretty much out of commission. I mean, you're kind of retired when you get a certain age, but there's still guys that are in the middle of everything, even in their 60s and 70s.
No question.
Yeah.
No question. People that cannot lay down the lifestyle, because I'll tell you what, people, it really is embarrassing sometimes, isn't it? I mean, there's politics going on and there's guys sitting down talking about who's going to get whacked or who's going to do this. And you're like, what happened? Well, dude's supposed to give him 2 flat books this Tuesday and he didn't. You're like, this is $14, right? For real, this is $14.
Oh, yeah.
But in there, if you said, well, I'll pay the 14, the guy will be like, I don't give a crap about that 14. The dude said he was going to do this. That's the issue.
It's a matter of principle.
People get killed behind principle every single day in prison. It's a bad
I've seen a guy
place.
killed over $1.75 pack of coffee.
Yeah. Was it keeping?
Half his head taken. Yes. Half his head taken off while a dude was bench pressing. First day on the yard. Took a 45-pound dumbbell and came down and took half his head off over a bag of coffee.
Absolutely. You know what I find's funny? Look, I don't follow all of the music. I'm not like a rap dude or any of that stuff, right? I personally, I'm following the story, but I don't follow the music. I really don't. It's I'm lost behind an awful lot of the stuff. Did you listen to any of the stuff back in the day?
Of what?
Any of the hip hop or any of the?
Yeah, actually, my celly I
Well,
almost said his
yeah,
name.
because
I
that
don't want to,
happens.
but that shot
Yeah.
caller that was my celly that had rhythm and probably the most dangerous inmate or convict on the yard. Uh, there was Tupac and Snoop Dogg were bumping out of our cell all the time. I mean, when it
Yeah.
first came out, nobody said not one word to us. No one. I could figure
Yeah.
I know why, but nobody said anything like that. And I only think we're the only ones that did it. But then again, people were coming by the cell, dropping things off all the time. So that was more
Yep.
or less a
I
quota.
can tell you a time that frightened me. And so the last time I did it was like either a couple of days ago, we did a live, and there was a guy in the chat who called himself Diesel Therapy, right? He's going to be
Yeah,
coming
I
on
saw
here.
that. I
Yeah,
saw
Diesel
that.
Therapy is going to be in the next I couldn't get him booked for this one, but he's going to do next week's yard time, and he could tell you the story himself. He was there as well, but I found myself in a position where a dude literally grabbed a guy by the head, and I thought he was going to kiss him on the lips. Right? They were fighting, and it looked like you would grab your wife if you were going to bring her in. And he got his hand on both sides of this guy's face, and he came in and went and just took dude's nose off at the base. It was the craziest thing you've ever seen. And the guy looked back. You were looking straight up into it like a skull. And he looked at me and he goes, "He bit my nose off, Rocco." It had been spit on the floor of my feet. I was like, "Yeah, I saw that, JD. Like, you know what I mean? I saw that. You need to go get help." He's like, "Can you get my nose?" For real. Now this was funny. I'm sorry. It really was, because this guy always put his nose where it didn't belong, and he wasn't in my car. So this was kind of funny. But when the dude who did the biting looked at me, it was the most, honestly, first of all, he was black and he was about 6'5", right? He was a big brother, just thick as hell. And he looked at me and he had blood, right, from coming out from his from where he bit his, and he goes, "Hey man, I didn't mean any disrespect spitting that on your desk." He's like, "I didn't want that crap in my mouth." And he was not at all bummed out that he bit this dude's nose off.
He
But
was more worried
he
about
did not
you.
want me to be offended that this thing
Uh-huh.
was spit in my general direction. And I remember thinking to myself, this is the most effed up thing I've ever heard someone say to me. You know what I mean? And I just looked at him and went, "We're cool, brother. Like, no disrespect at all." And the drama started because the big dude was airbrushing a mural on the wall for the cops in the cops mess hall, right? And I oversaw all that. So as he's doing the stuff, he goes, "Hey man, can I get another one of those chicken patties?" I go, "Yeah, don't trip, I got you." And I went over to get it, and this dude said, "No man, you've had 3 of those things." And I go, "Oh, I got 30 boxes back there, bro. I'll just go grab a whole other box, and you can start deep frying these things. Like, don't trip." And he's like, "Nah, man." He's like, "He doesn't get unlimited stuff to work back here." And I was like, "JB, man, get out of the dude's business." Everyone else was saying to him, "Just leave him alone." I used to buy these things. They were 7.5 cents, right? And get you one of these patties. They're 7.5 cents. And this dude got his nose bit off of his face for it, like, for real. And that one scared the hell out of me. Not the act, but the look on the guy's face, because you would have thought that it was, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bump into you. But, hey, I didn't mean any disrespect, spitting that man's nose under your desk." I was like, "Okay, all righty." And they sent him off to the ADX for that. Like, that's no joke. Snake says, "My cousin was in Rikers and called it hell on earth. I made a stop by there myself." I didn't do a sentence. I just did an arrest and until I got out. But it got my attention, and I'd been in a whole heap of county jails by that time. Rikers it's really different, man.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. It's bad.
I think one of the times that frightened me was when they were lighting off the Mini 14 on a fight, and rounds were bouncing off walls, and one hit the guy next to me.
Oh no!
And then they put that guy in the hole and charged him with possession of state property.
For the
bullet was in his shoulder.
That is
put
crazy.
Him in the hole, and he had nothing to do with it. That's crazy. And watching a guy come out of the chow hall worker with a turkey baster temperature gauge in his neck. I mean, that was crazy.
Yeah, that's something. Some of the craziest stuff in the kitchen. I watched I watched them remove the deep fryers out of Terre Haute, and I was the reason why I was there when it happened, and I wasn't in it. I wasn't a part of it, but a dude
I already
just
know where this is
flung
going.
an entire cup of boiling oil onto a guy, and
Yeah.
the person's first response, logically, is to get some cold water on it as fast as
Yeah.
possible, and it is the
Yeah.
worst thing you can do for it because it just goes, the skin sloughs off. It was
Yep.
absolutely disturbing. And the worst part is everybody in the room is going, oh, you got to be kidding, dude. We ain't getting no more fried food. Like, no one was worried that this dude's face was never going to be the same. Everybody
Everything's
there was
steamed
blown.
now.
Yep. That
That's
was the question.
That was
they really are they're a force wherever they go. You
Right.
know, that's kind of how it goes. I have seen boiling water, not honey. I've seen them do it with baby oil, right? Back when they used to put that on the, then it's no longer on anybody's.
I've got a story for you. I got a story for you. When I first went in, they used to give you this little triangle bottle. It was round of lotion, really little, like a hotel sample.
Yeah.
And they give you top too, bags of top and matches.
Yeah.
And the guys used to empty those lotion bottles and clean them out, whatever, get all the matches they could and fill up that lotion bottle. All right. Put a bunch of razors in there. I mean, when this is packed down, a little wick,
make a hand grenade.
throw it in somebody's cell.
Yep.
That's how crazy it was back then.
Well, I think I was telling Sean today on the show. They had filled up a light bulb, right? They had hollowed out the inside of a light bulb with the filament and everything still in it, and they filled it up with kerosene.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy went in, threw the light switch, it exploded the bulb, and all of that crap burned down right on the top of him, which is just foul. You know what I mean? But that's the kind of stuff where if they catch you, if you're the guy that they know did that, that's considered disrespectful, unless the person you did it to has got some really bad paperwork. Like if you did that to anybody just because you had a beef, man, they're gonna end your career. It's just a matter of time. Somebody's gonna get a hold of you.
Yes, they will. You got to get permission for that kind of stuff. You can't just do it on your own.
You know, I think that it's still that way. Honestly, look, man, I read I've been deep diving, right? And I have researched some stuff recently that I swear to you, man, it's the most. If you Google, when you're done, go ahead and Google how many, what percentage of inmates cut deals. They break it down by race. Honestly, you can look up all of it, and what it comes right down to is the days of honorable cats and all of that are long gone. Charlie Muffins, you're a beast. That is subscriber number 1. 21,600 and some odd subscribers ago. Oh, Charlie Muffins. I love you, my brother. Been there a really long time.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
I think he is. He's always been
Easy
good.
E is rolling around in his grave right now. Have you heard the conspiracy theories behind that too? Right?
No.
There's a lot. There is so much smoke around this. There really is. Anybody that has passed away from anything, right, that is even remotely premature, they're going to tell you that the industry knocked them off because they wanted the royalties. And it's a lot of money, right? There really is a lot of money in these people dying young. They're talking about Whitney. They're talking about all of these things that we kind of just assumed were tragedies. And again, these are all just alleged. But boy, there's a lot of people alleging it. Hey, V. McWilliams, good to see you.
I heard the family. Yeah, I heard the family is suing that guy for Kim's book now or something like that. That Amazon book you were talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, they're suing.
And I think I'm not surprised by that. Yeah, I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah, me neither. They don't
know. If it's really her words, right, then they shouldn't be profiting on it, right? The family probably should. And if it's not, then it's just complete and utter, BS, which is kind of a bummer. That's
a web right there with Diddy and Albie Shore and all them who are all involved. I mean,
everybody. Crazy. And the more, here's the thing. We listen to people like Cat Williams and people that came out and said things and we go, whatever, these secret societies and all of this stuff. And the more you start looking into this, the more you go, hey, D. Hendricks, have a great night. The more you look into it, the more you go, yeah, you know what? I think this is a club. I think to get into this club, there's a bunch of stuff that you had to do. It's staggering the number of artists and entertainers, particularly black men, who have been on film wearing dresses. And this is a conspiracy theory that you can research because there's a lot of people that talk about it. And it just seems to me like they do everything within their power to control these people and to shame them, right? Use sex and shame as control. Yeah. You saw LeBron James in that dress picture. Okay. So
is that real?
Is the picture real? Absolutely, the picture's real. This picture came out a long time ago.
Really?
A long time ago. And he put up with some crap back then, and his response back then was, hey, I got drunk as hell, man. That's what happened is. And everybody's done it, whatever. You know, you get drunk enough, and you just happen to have laying around a dress that fits a 6'9" tall, 250-pound black man.
Right.
Bought that off the rack. Yeah. I don't think so. Right? To me, those are a sale. That to me is the part where I go, hey, wait a second, right? And then what were you doing? Taking a picture of yourself in it? Well,
right.
If that was your picture, you would not let that get out. You know what I mean?
He would have been better just saying that, you know, it was an old Halloween costume.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. Well,
what
was really funny? Hey, this is funny. I was talking to a friend of mine when this thing came out, right? And the person started to talk about, yes, I've heard that conspiracy.
Yeah.
Sadly, I have heard the conspiracy theory around Eazy-E as well. But the nonsense that is going off on this, you're not going to find people in Hollywood that aren't in some way or another dirty, right? There's no way to get around the fact that this is an entire industry that is the biggest crime organization in the history of our country. I'm sorry, there's no way to get around it. What they've been doing to entertainers for as long as there's been entertainers, right? Think about this for real. You get signed on, right? Russ, I bring you on board and I go, hey, man, welcome to the big times. Here's $500,000, right? Now get in the studio and start making records. And you know what? You've never had any money. You lived in the hood your whole life. You just won the lottery. And you know what? You live like you did. They go out, they buy really nice cars, they buy jewelry, right? They're broke in 2 months. And in about 5 months, they go back to them and go, hey, album's doing all right. Let's go on tour. Give me $400,000. We're going to put up the rest of the money. And the guy goes, $400,000? Man, I ain't got $400,000. I spent that money. Well, don't trip. We'll lend it to you. We're going to put up your money and our money. And when the tour's over, they literally owe them money and end up signing a 4-record deal because they lost money on the tour when the tour made whatever. If it made $150 million, they're going to show you fees for $160 million and you're going to owe 10. And they've been doing this to artists since the beginning of time. And the artists, what are they going to compare it to, right? If these guys aren't smart enough to have attorneys and the lure of getting famous fast, it's devastating, man.
Yeah, I've seen it. You know, Angie Dickinson, you remember her?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, her daughter Nikki Backrack, her Angie and Bert had a Nikki. Well, Nikki was sort of handicapped, or she had problems. She killed herself. I think years back, but she was a friend of mine, really good friend. I used to go up to her house all the time, and Angie and I would sit there, and I'd get my mom pictures of her autographed and all that. But she would tell me stories, and they insured her legs for $1 million. Remember that?
Yep.
She was beautiful, and she would tell me horror stories of what people would try to do. I was like, man, I don't even want to be around these people. She goes, no, you don't. You really don't. The price is the same.
Is it true the living conditions and food are better in federal prison versus the state? Nope.
No.
But here's the thing. You heard that rumor, right? So did all of us. I promise you. Every single inmate that's ever done any time has heard, oh, man, you wish you were going to the feds. Right? Club Fed, those fools live so good. They got better food. They get Coca-Cola and the chow hall, like the BS I heard. right? And then I went in there, and I had already done a state rip. So when I got in, I thought, Club Fed, here we come.
Right.
And first day, guy walking around with stuff sticking out his neck. Somebody buried a pen in the guy. I'm like, oh no, dude, this ain't Club Fed. No, all bad.
Yeah, it was totally different. We had better food, but we had better store. We could have TVs, radios, all that shit, fans or crap, sorry. But I
Yeah.
mean, we had the life.
No, it was. I had a television set in my cell. I ran a sports book. I played. I was on 3 or 4 different teams. I was playing softball, like any sport that came up, pickleball, because we were all doing it. Like everybody went out and played. There was dope everywhere. It was like going to college, but there were no women around. Right.
Right.
For real.
Exactly.
You could buy booze. If you had money, you could get drunk every day. It was a very different kind of a thing. And I thought, boy, if the Feds is better than this, right? It's going to be a real easy time. And
right.
It was just no.
Mm-hmm.
I got lied to. In fact, it's really funny because you'll be there about a month, and inevitably some guy's going to walk up and go, "Hey, how you doing, man? You getting used to the yard? Did they tell you this shit was going to be better than the state?"
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like we all got burned.
Yeah.
No, it's way worse, man. The food's worse. Really terrible living conditions.
In the Feds, you guys don't have conjugal visits, do you?
Absolutely not.
Oh,
absolutely not. Nope. They're real ugly about even kissing your wife when she comes in, right? They're really ugly about all of it. V. McWilliams, you know what? You probably can pre-order the book. You probably can. I just don't know how to do it yet. So coming soon, I will let you know. I am not the brains in this operation. Let me tell you that right now. I am not the brains in this operation, but somewhere between my brother, my girlfriend, my best friend, and my agent, we're gonna get a way for everybody to buy this thing early. How would that be? I promise it's coming. I just don't know how to do it. You absolutely could do it right now. I just don't know how. I'm not very bright, but won't be long now. I promise.
An autographed copy on the way.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you know what else? People have asked, is there any chance that there'll be one that my brother is doing the narration for, or is there one that I will be doing the narration for? Yeah, there will be. And there's going to be a book where my character is talking will be me, and when my brother's character is talking, it will be him. And, we'll read it that way, and it will make a lot more sense. So there's going to be a lot of different ways that you can get this. The title of the book, I could probably drop the title of the book at this point. Hold on one second.
The Morgan Freeman Prison Stories.
You know what? I don't know whether I just screamed out the top of my lungs when I muted. I was like, hey, can I say the name of the book? I don't know. I thought he was inside. I guess he's not. He could be swimming. Calhoun's is the brain. Make no mistake. Yeah, he's either filming with a hot pepper or he's in the pool. I'll tell you what. A very long time ago on this channel, a person put up the name of what they thought would be an incredible name for a book if we ever wrote it. And at the time, and I read it, I said to him, you may not believe this, but my brother had already suggested that title. It was Seventh Son that brought it up. And it's a great title. It really is. The name of it is. I'm going to just tell you, and I hope Johnny isn't pissed. Hold on one more second.
He's hiding it from us, people.
Wow, that was close. No, but within the next couple of days, I will absolutely tell you. I literally almost dropped that one, and that would have been really stupid. But I guess if you go back far enough, you're probably going to find it anyway. Question regarding prison food. Was there any meal that you actually liked?
If you didn't make it,
right?
In yourself,
I'm talking chow hall. Chow hall. No.
No.
I would have said the same thing.
Well,
now, the exception to that would have been the state.
Okay, in the state, when you go to breakfast, you come out the door and the guard hands you a bag for a bag lunch because they don't serve hot lunch in the state. But sometimes they would put this little cup of honey peanut butter in there.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
That was fire.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Your little Kool-Aid packet, your Jim Jones.
The Jim Jones Kool-Aid packet. Yeah, so everybody calls it too. And that bread isn't bread. I don't know how to explain it, right? But they're able to put it in a freezer for 4 years. and then take it out and put it on Con Air, and people can eat it. So whatever it is, it ain't bread. I promise. In the state,
like pita dough.
yeah, in the state of Nevada, right, where I did some time, they had a camp that grew all the food, right? They had a camp that grew all the food, raised the beef, all that stuff that they were serving there. So that food was sick. Like it was really good food. And their biscuits and gravy, I promise you could serve on the street. Like they were that good. But I ran a sports book and I had a great hustle. Like we were killing it. In fact, my partner comes in here all the time. He's out. He's free. But the guy that was my partner as a bookie is a guy on the lifeboat. But so we ate all of our meals in the cell. We never went to chow hall. And the only time I broke that was I would go for breakfast to eat biscuits and gravy. And in the feds, if you happen to hit only 1 yard in the feds, but if you happen to hit Oregon, at Sheridan, they make like Cinnabon buns every single Sunday. And those puppies are about this big, right? Like if you go up and eat 2 of them every Sunday, you're going to weigh 400 pounds by the time you leave prison. They're like 1 billion calories, right? And it's incredible, but they do it every single Sunday. And the 3rd Sunday I went up, I looked at my cellie. I'm like, man, I ain't going to have a 6-pack, when I leave here, right? My stomach, I'm going to look. I worked my whole rip to get into shape. I'm like, I'm not eating another one of them honey buns. I mean, no chance. Not another one ever.
No peanut butter on it.
No. I would go up, grab it, bring it back, and sell it. Because you could get a flat buck for one of those puppies. Like the people that missed breakfast, they were all about it.
Yeah,
they were all about
to
it.
this day,
But
I won't
no
eat
good
green
meals.
I won't eat green beans to this day. Nope.
How
They
about
serve
3
it
bean
with
salad?
breakfast. They would give it to you at dinner all the time. I just cannot do it. Green beans, no way. I like them French cut, but no.
The feds do a 3 bean salad, right? And if you are a vegetarian, there's not enough protein in the diet. So they're going to give you 4 ounces of peanut butter at every meal in a little packet, right? 1/4 pound at every single meal. And then they also would use those 3 bean salads. And I actually liked that crap out of the can. I really did. It was like, and it was funny because one of the last times I remember talking to my dad, and he was like, man, how is it? Is it really bad in there? I'm like, man, it is bad, Chief. And he's like, how bad? I'm like, this building has holes in it. The wind blows through it. I'm like, but they make a great 3 bean salad. Like, you'd be really surprised. And my dad laughed for about a half hour. Like he thought that was the best thing ever. But they did. They had decent, but you get burned out on it because they give it to you, like Russ said. If there's anything that they're trying to get you protein, like getting it through beans, they're going to give it to you every 8 minutes until you just cannot eat another one.
Yep.
Cruising by, says Christy Hughes. Christy, I love it when you cruise by. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Russ would not be a good vegetarian. I think that's a safe bet. I think that's
a safe bet.
Yeah. Well, I think most convicts hate it. I used to do it, Russ. When I would do it every year in the Fed. So I was in a lockdown unit, people. It's 23 hours locked down, right? So the food was cold always because you're nowhere near a chow hall. They got to bring it up and deliver it. So everything you got was always cold. So I just decided that right after Thanksgiving Day, I would turn vegetarian and I'd run it the entire year until October. And then I would put in for meat because they actually went out of their way to make Thanksgiving a meal. They really did in the Feds. I mean, it wasn't always good, but they tried. Yeah, they tried.
We had soy burgers and all that kind of crap. Nothing was real. We didn't get no chicken or pork chops, nothing. No.
Christy Hughes, thank you so much again for your support. When I was here in Tucson, we got food that was incredible, but it was because I had a job in the kitchen and I was working this but like they were buying Cornish game hen, but it was just for the cops. But I was taking that crap home. I was eating like a king. I really was, but it was a hustle. It's not like they were feeding us that. I was managing to work it out. LRM says, Tommy, you talk about the terror Danny Masterson and Charlie Adelson go through at stages in jail. How did you and your guests get through the tough times? Just like everybody else does. Miserable, right? Waiting to get sentenced is a hell that you can't explain until you've gone through it. Because you're probably not going to court. Statistically, none of us go to court. We all plead guilty, right? You cut the best deal you can and you plead guilty. But you cutting a deal and the prosecutor saying, well, if you plead to this, we're going to give you this much time. Then you walk in and the judge goes, you didn't get promised anything, did you? And you're like, well, yeah, she said I could get, no. You don't get it, right? You got to know right now I can sentence you to whatever I want. And you go, oh, hell no. So the first time you get blindsided, but by the time you're going to get real time, you've been through this a lot. And you know you're walking in and he's going to say, did they promise you anything? And you're going to go, no. Right? You're making this free and voluntary? Yeah.
Yep.
Right? And that ain't the way it is. It's not. You're terrified. I just know you got a 98% conviction rate. Why would I fight this? Right?
Exactly.
No, it doesn't work. Yes, Kristen Melinda, everything was expired. I promise you. If it wasn't expired, then it literally said on the side of it, not fit for human consumption.
I remember picking up, you know, they pass out the toilet paper and they give you a couple rolls for sale. I picked one out. A tarantula came out about that big.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
it's just been living in there. I picked up fruit and half the apple is just gone. Or the orange is just green and just worms are in it. So, it's pretty.
No, it's really disgusting stuff. All of it. It really is. What food did you both crave the most while you were in? What did you miss, man? If you could have had anything, what would it have been?
Anything real.
Yeah, anything real, exactly.
Or steak.
Just to give you an idea, how messed up it is, right? Somebody comes to visit you, and they sell cheeseburgers in a vending machine, right?
Yep.
That cheeseburger in the vending machine that's been there, who knows, right? You're going to put it in a microwave oven and eat it, and I promise you it's the best freaking thing you've eaten in a year, maybe two, right?
Yep.
That is out of the vending machine. So to give you an idea, a McDonald's commercial comes online. Like I've been free now, 4 years. You couldn't get me to a McDonald's. I'm not doing that. But while you're in there and you're watching the commercials for it, you're like, dude, I would drop kick a baby through the uprights for a Big Mac. And cops are always bringing those in. Cops always walking in with a Kentucky Fried Chicken bag, right? Or a bag, and you're just like, you son of a man, don't do that. Don't be showing me that. So when you went to Chow, what were you buying in Chow, Russ? Typical items, what were you paying for it? Yeah. I mean, it's store.
Oh, okay. At store? Oh man, we probably buy 4 cases. Well, we could spend 140 a pop every time we went to the store every 3 weeks. And then we have the dead week. Then we get it every 4 weeks. So I buy bags of coffee, 3 or 4 cases of soups, Zuzu's, Wham Whams, Peckerwood sandwiches, brownies and chocolate chip cookies. And then I didn't drink coffee then. So I used to stash coffee. I mean, just jars and bags of it. So I'd make my money that way.
So do you think Keefy D got the name Keefy D because of Keefy?
That's a good question. But he's running with George
Bush.
It
the same way. He spells it the same way, right? And the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, he had to have done time.
Yeah.
Right? Who else talks about Keefy?
Right.
This one. I got one for you. How about this one?
Neutraloaf.
All right, people. If you don't know what Neutraloaf is, here's what happens, right? You get sent to the hole, right? They're going to take the starch out of you. This is probably the first time you've been sent to the hole. You've never gone to the shoe before. So you get in a fight, and then you spout off and say all kinds of bad stuff to the cops, and they lock you up in the shoe, right? And you get so pissed off in the shoe that you go ahead and you kick the sprinkler head off. And just about everybody's done it once. You figure, you know what? You won't play me like this? I'll just flood this cell, dude. I'll bust that sprinkler head. And you learn that the water that's been sitting in that pipe has been there for about 7 years. It's black as the ace of spades. It smells worse than anything you've ever smelled, and they got fire retardant mixed in with it. But now what they do is they say, now we're going to take away your bedding, right? You don't have a mattress to sleep on. We'll drop it off to you at midnight. We'll take it away at 5 a.m. And they keep taking away more and more. And if you keep bucking, they say, we're taking away 3 meals a day. So for breakfast, you were having cornflakes. For lunch, you were having a cheeseburger with fries, right? And for dinner, you were having tuna casserole. We're going to take all of that, put it into one little thing, and we're going to bake it into a thing that looks like a piece of cake. And you'll see corn in it. And it's called Neutraloaf.
spaghetti,
And I
beans.
promise you, God bless you. If you can eat, I knew a guy that used to swear that he liked it, but there is nothing harder than trying to get down Nutrilo. I did 28 days of that shit.
That's survival food. I mean, you pack
It's
it, put it on the
survival
shelf
food.
25 years, and still be edible to some
You
people.
have to have commissary, Christy Hughes says, and you're right, man. You
Yes.
have to have. Is it really cheaper to feed inmates that way, or is it part of the punishment? I'll tell you exactly what's happening. I won't make any friends, but I'll tell you what's happening. The guy that's running that place is spending about $1 million a month of somebody else's money. Literally. He's ordering such massive amounts of food to feed that many inmates, especially if it's a full compound. And he starts thinking to himself, if I didn't serve beef twice a week, if I bought chicken patties instead of beef, right? And I did it every other month, how much money could I scam off of this in the course of the year? Especially if the people at the place selling it to me are in on it, right? And this is happening at every single yard. So if they can buy something that's a little bit worse quality, they're just stealing the money. They buy brand new ovens every 2 years, right? Every 2 years. These ovens are designed to go 35 years, right? But they got to spend the money. If they don't blow the whole budget, they get 15% less the next year. If they blow the whole budget, they'll increase their budget by whatever, 10% or whatever. And all of these people want as much money as they can get. I remember them saying to me, we got to figure out a way to spend, because I was the guy ordering stuff. He's like, how are we going to spend another $150,000? He's like, and we're running out of time. I was like, why don't you hook up the inmates?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, do something for the inmates for a change. And he's like, all right, we'll give them 2 boxes of Pop-Tarts every breakfast for a week. That's to 1,400 dudes. And every time they're just handing them out to everybody because they got to spend all that money by the end of September. Because in the Feds, that's your end of the year is September.
Your budget.
It's insane. Right? Yeah. They're like, throw out the tables. And I'm like, okay, we're replacing all the tables in the staff cap with stuff that looks like an Italian restaurant, much nicer stuff. And the guy that I was taking the stuff off the floor because it was bolted down, he goes, we bolted this shit down 2 years ago. He's like, next year, and they'll call their homeboys. I listened to the guy on the phone saying to his brother-in-law, the auction's on Saturday. It's at this location. They're auctioning off all of the crap they're giving away to buy brand new stuff on because they got to justify spending the money, but they don't
giving it to shelters.
Inmates.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, squirrel nut.
Yours was up here. Mine was up early.
She just climbed up on my shoulder to do it, and she only does that when I'm live because the cat literally is into the whole YouTube thing. Thinks she's a star,
That's what mine does.
Making demands, starting talking about wanting her own channel and crap like that. Kind of hard to live with. I'm not gonna lie.
The keys to the cat treats.
That's right. That's right. Between my girlfriend, my cat, right, my whole family, it's insane. Right, we're all YouTubers. Yeah, bad food. It's just and it's a hustle. And you know something? If you Google kitchen executive, whatever in the Feds, gets caught for stealing money from the chow, or he gets caught with $400,000 worth of steak and freezers in his house because he's selling stuff out the back door. That story happens once a year somewhere. They get caught constantly.
Yep.
Mischief managed. You're looking at the kitty cam. I'm on it. The other camera crapped the bed. Yeah, I'm on. The other one crapped the bed. I'm on the cat camera. Thank you. But it really is try having 14 cats. I could do that.
Yeah,
to me, that's the happiest place on earth, man. That's not Disney
it is.
World. 14 cats is the happiest place on earth.
Right. I was thinking about that the other day. I used to go to Disneyland when it was $5 to get in.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Holy
and they used to send out passes to anybody who lived within a mile of that Knott's Berry Farm and Disney in competition. So they would send out free passes. And I used to go there, 2-3 times a week. $5. Sure. I had all kinds of girlfriends I met there and everything. I don't know.
Yeah, that's great for a kid, man.
150 a person. I'm like,
there's no way in hell you can afford. You can't afford there to go often for real.
No. Surrounded by hotels and drugs. I mean, it's bad now. I couldn't believe it. I will never go back to California. Nope. Crazy.
Yeah, you know what?
My cat just caught a spider.
My cat does the old hunting of Kim Roy. Good to see it. That does the bug thing all of the time,
Yeah.
all of the time. Yeah, it's funny to me. It really is. It's funny to me that every time one of these new cases starts, as a convict, people want to ask you some questions, especially if the guy happens to be going to the feds or whatever, right? And I had 3 channels reach out to me. I've gone on one of them. I'm not talking about Surviving the Survivor because we do stuff all the time, right? But I went on with Sean Atwood, and there was another guy that called, and I'm not going to out him. He's got a small channel, but we had a conversation for about 6 minutes. He was telling me what he wanted to do and how we were going to get together. And I promise you, this dude's not been to prison. And the fact that someone would lie about that to me is one of the most fascinating, I swear to God, one of the most fascinating things that maybe I can't wrap my head around it. I really can't. It's like bragging because it's like bragging for being a screw up. I mean, to get paid, that's a real messed up thing to lie about. Most of us lie about not being there.
Right. No, I've never been to a joint. I got, I got an E number. I can tell you that,
Yeah. Well, I won't say, because if I say where this person or why I could out him, it would say where they're from. It would tell part of the story or whatever. But there are things that give you an example. I was in a unit once, and the guy said he had claimed that he had just come from a USP. Didn't have his lockup order, but he was going to get it mailed in, right? Blah, blah, blah. And he said he had left his stuff on the table to go to chow. And when he came back, he's like, oh, man, if I had left that there at the USP, he's like, man, they've stolen that. And there were 9 dudes in the room that had been in USPs, and we all just kind of looked at each other. Like, you couldn't leave your radio on a table? Like, nobody in prison steals anything from anybody. I don't know how to really hammer that home. Stealth thieves are rare, right? I mean, rare. It doesn't happen because when you get caught, they're going to make an example out of you.
Yeah,
people will be talking about for years.
Yeah, there's no punishment. I mean, I knew a guy who, unalived his cellmate over the bag of Kool-Aid you get in a lunchbox when you there. I mean, he cut his off and everything.
Yeah, don't steal from anybody, right? Cell thieves are considered absolutely the scum of the earth. I mean, you couldn't make it in society, and then you get put in with guys are stone cold killers, and you try to steal from them anyway. You really are at the bottom of the barrel, man. That's there's nothing you won't do.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You recently saw Sean saying that I'll be back. Did you see him saying that since today's show, or did you see that a couple of days ago? Because we were back today. The Lifeboat was back on Sean today.
Yeah, it was a great show too.
Thank you. You know something? I got more positive feedback from that show. A lot of people I knew, people I've known a long time, that just thought, yeah, that was a really good show. So I'm pretty happy.
It was. It really was.
This is a great comment. It's interesting. They think that you won't be able to tell, right? We can smell our own. You know what honestly really threw me away? So this guy claims he was a Fed inmate, right? And I said something about a guy that was a gunner, right? And he made reference like bing bing. Well, a gunner in the feds is a dude that stands at the cell window and rubs one out when people are going by, and they get satisfaction out of this, right? And in the feds, that's called a gunner. And when I said it, he reacted to it as if it were a compliment, and I was like, what level of custody were you at, right? And he was like, well, it's at the FCIs. Oh no, they're gunners at the FCIs, and they get crushed, right? And it's a phrase that if you bring up, someone's going to go, ooh, right? And that, I just got there was, and then I started looking. Now I'm dropping things and then asking questions, and no.
Testing the water.
Yeah, I said to him, I go, did you ever have to file any grievances? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, BP8s, BP9s. He's like, yeah. I'm like, what's the highest you ever went up the chain? He's like, to the top, which is the dumbest thing you could possibly say, right? Because I went 211, and he's like, yeah, 211. Well, that ain't the top, right? So I don't think you've been there, because anybody that has been in there, they went through that process.
I've got one. Okay, you know the author Dean Koontz?
I do.
Okay, I loved him. He was a great author. I loved his book.
Yep.
Well, the guy who burglarized his house, or said he did, his name was Andrew Lesky. All right, he was a lame, a total lame. But when I was in county, you had levels: white band,
Yeah.
yellow band, red band, or blue band, which was PC.
Yeah. Blue
I
is
happened
almost
to,
always it.
yeah, I happened to be a yellow band. I was high security, but not the highest. But we used to serve. I was in white band first, but got into a fight, so I went to yellow band. But when I was a white band, I was a trustee sort of, and we used to feed the PC. Well, this guy shows up at where was it? Ironwood, yeah, and I knew he was a PC, so I had to go. I ran that car, so I had to go and find out about it. And once I knew, because I knew it, I had to deal with it. So
Damn.
this guy was bragging about, being the, the burglar of Dean Koontz's house. Well, I had to go in. That's the one time I got the knuckle check really good being a porter, because I tuned that guy up, real bad, and that was pretty fun. They knuckle checked me, but they knew, but they couldn't prove it.
Oh yeah. Well,
Straight ratty.
like that story I was telling you last week about that vile dude that ended up getting so that happened at a prison where I got a homeboy, like a super homeboy, like a guy that reaches out to me every time I email him. And when he called me, I said, "Hey, what was the story on that?" And he goes, "Nobody knows the story on it." He goes, "But it sounds to me like his cellie whacked him, right?" And the cops are trying to say, "Hey, those injuries could have happened at noon." And that dude came up and laid down. Like they're trying to keep this dude who snuffed this guy from catching the case. That's what it sounds like. They're doing everything within their power to make this go away. But this dude just thought this guy doesn't deserve to live. And when you research that case, this was a 6-year-old girl that, and mom traded her for dope to 2 people. So the fact that this guy got life and life was only about 4 friggin' months is a beautiful thing as far as I'm concerned.
Right? Yeah. Yep. I remember a couple cell extractions we had. Man,
is there a TV in the background? I got Johnny Scoville visiting from in town in the other room, and I've got visitors who are saying hi to him. I apologize, people, but that is the rest of the Scoville house is what you're listening to. They're celebrating my brother being in town. You know something? This is good.
Yeah, I know.
He doesn't need the rope.
This is what made me think of the cell extractions, because we used to flood our toilet, and when they would come in, we would pour shampoo
all over the floor. Yeah. Vaseline, anything that they could grab. And if you got enough sheets, if they're dumb enough to let you keep sheets in there,
wet them
go
down
this way, right? And you spider web the cell. So they got to come over it and all that. Oh, I've been there, done that.
They just got to the point where they just stuck the crowd suppressing spray in the slot, and he just nailed this.
So here's the way it finally comes out, right? And that's not what I was looking for. So where you did your time is actually really logical, right? The fact that you did time is a little less logical. I don't know why anyone would say that they did time if they didn't. However, if you did time, and let's say you were at a yard that everybody on earth knows ain't a good yard, then people like to say they were somewhere else, right? Because those yards are usually inhabited by lowlifes. Sorry about that. But that's why people do it, to try to protect themselves. Question: is there any way to fully comprehend the culture shock that the diddler is going to experience in prison? You know what? No. The only people that are going to comprehend how bad this is going to be for him are going to be people that have sat in a day room when a guy who got off the bus shouldn't have got off the bus, right?
Right.
There are people who know that if they come out of that, they're going to get hurt. And every once in a while, one of those fools either has enough of checking in and they're like, I'm just going to go take my medicine, right? Donald Scott Taylor, a guy who knew that the big gang was after him, and they sent him to Victorville, and he just decided to walk out there because he was tired of diesel therapy. And they snuffed his ass instantly. Same thing happened to Whitey Bulger. But unless you've been in a day room and watched the look on a guy's face when he walks in and sees everybody quit talking, it's not like the movies where they're yelling and everything else. It gets quiet and everybody just turns and looks at him like, I wonder what this guy's, you know. He doesn't
the cat calling starts.
And then all kinds of stuff that just, ooh, we got fish. It's all bad.
I'm getting paid now.
For someone who has not done time, right? For someone that has not seen that go down, I'll be really honest, man. I hate it. I never liked that feeling. There are guys who love watching that moment where you can smell the dude's fear. I don't dig that, man. I really don't. If the guy's a bad dude, get him out of the day room, go beat him up and get him on his way. But watching, like, it looks like cats that are messing with mice, and it's a really unpleasant thing to watch. And I would imagine that it's going to be that times 50 for a guy as famous as Diddy.
I don't think he'll be hit right away. I think they're going to get what they can. But it will happen eventually. It will happen. Just like with
I guess if someone is an aspiring rapper.
Everyone is beating on the table singing.
I got one. I got two escape stories that got nothing to do with me because I was never that dumb, right? I never even for a hot second, right? Even think about, right? But I knew a guy who got hemmed up in the Unicor in an FCI, and they moved a plate from underneath a sewing machine and found out that the unit that they were in literally had a crawl space, right? So they started to Shawshank Redemption this crap and start bringing dirt out and trying to tunnel, but they were flushing dirt down the toilets, right? They were taking dirt into the crapper Unicor. And if you've never done time, there's no way to explain to you what you can flush down it.
Yeah, a wool blanket.
A dog. You flush a dog down that thing, I promise you to disappear. A wool blanket will disappear in seconds. Funniest thing you ever saw. Full-size wool blanket. Gone, right? It's completely gone. So they tunneled and finally got to where they were on the other side of the fence. They paced the thing, and so they were ready to go, and they were just a bit off, and no joke. My friend, who ended up getting hemmed up anyway, but he said, I'm not going. He's like, I thought about this all night. He's like, man, I'm just going to do my time. He's like, it's not worth it for me. You know, do what you do, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But the rest of them went out. And then when they came up, they were literally, you know, the dead man's spot. They were between the fences. They didn't tunnel enough to get outside the second fence. So their heads popped up in the middle. And they just, everybody, you know, came down, walked right into the building that obviously they had come out of. And all of them caught escape charges. And then I knew a guy whose last name, I won't do it to him. He's dead, but I won't do it to him. He's probably got family or whatever. He was a runner. And he looked like a runner. He weighed like 130 pounds. He's an old man. And all he did was run all the time. And he would go out there. About 4 hours he'd be running. And they had chin-up bars, right, that are on these wooden blocks that hold the chin-up bars. They're at 3 different heights. And he came by and he took off his MP35, right, his radio, and he set it down on the desk. I mean, on the table we were all sitting at, and he looked at my friend and he goes, hey, Rob, he goes, what's up? He goes, you can have that radio. And Rob goes, man, I don't need your radio, dog. He's like, yeah, I don't need it either. And he started to run. He went around the lap. And when he came back around, he jumped on our table, onto the next table. And then he hit the 3 wooden things that this was on and launched himself as far as he could to try to clear the fence. And as he was running and gaining speed, like the truck, they already started yelling at him right from the towers. Don't do it. Don't do it. He jumped, tried to get over. They let him up. Right? They let him up. And yeah, no joke. Because he made it to the other side. So they let him up, and he was hanging on the fence by the razor wire. And they were like, all right, everybody back to the units. Everybody. And this white dude was like, not happening.
Yeah.
We're going to hang out here and make sure you get our friend off of the but just the nonchalant way that he did it. He was like, hey, man, you can have my radio. None of us had any clue what it was just a weird thing. Like, what's he talking about? But I guess he figured, you know what, he'd been down 50 years or whatever, and I'm going to at least get plugged on the free side of that fence. You know what I mean?
Right.
At least be on the other side of that gate.
Yeah. Some guys
It's
just
ugly
get to that
there,
point. Man. Yeah. I don't know how many lifers I ran into, and you could almost tell that's how they felt because they weren't going to go anywhere.
Right.
So,
well, I feel really bad for people that are stuck in there. Life is, and there are some people who really make some incredible stuff out of it, right?
Yeah.
Q's done some great stuff, but the idea of knowing that you got the long play, you got the album, right? You got no number. I can't wrap my brain around that. I really can't. For me, it was always about. It was about 2020, right? Which sounded a long time away, right? When you're in the tens, 20 or 21 sounds like a long time away. But you instantly can start going, all right, I got to bring them, 2,800 and whatever days. Tomorrow I can count one off, and that will do wonders for a guy's head. It really will.
Oh yeah, I remember. I mean, I was like, man, I got to do what? And then I caught all my time. So by then I was just like, okay, we'll do it. My mom knew it too. Is if I didn't leave California when I got out, that I would have still caught the 3 strike. So
yeah,
it was a safety move. My uncle's new too, so I just did my thing.
Well, you know something? In the feds, all of the old timers, when you got 30 days from leaving, they went to the shoe. That's what all the old timers did, man. Their last 30 days before they walked, they would just say that I'm going to the shoe. I'm not hanging out in this unit. Nothing's going to mess me up. I'm going to go there. I'm going to eat the right way. I'm going to do push-ups. But there was a lot of hate back in the day, man. There'd be people you're going home. You got a guy doing life looking at you like, yeah, maybe you ain't going home. You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe we'll just get in a fist fight and I'll keep you here another 80 days. How'd that be? And that kind of crap, one guy that ain't solid can really mess up somebody. So it used to be a thing. To be a thing. Guys would say, that's it. I'm rolling this thing up. I'm not going to stick around.
I remember my last night there on the yard, right before yard call, something kicked off between the whites and Mexicans.
Oh my God.
Everybody's on the ground and we're all quiet. And all I hear is my name being screamed out by my cellie who's across the yard. He wanted to make sure I was okay because he knew I went home tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. I got to love him for that.
Do you ever have anybody dirtbag you bad? A guy on the way out, I'm not kidding you, a guy on the way out says he lied to everybody, right? This was on a go home yard. Says an FCI, but he's lying to everybody. And every morning you have the call out sheets. So I'm over there checking my name to see if I got to go to medical or go anywhere else. It's the call out sheets. And it says guy's name from our unit. And it says R&R. This dude's leaving, right? There ain't no reason you go to R&R. So I went up to a friend of mine. I'm like, I thought he was going home on Wednesday. And he goes, oh man, he's running on a big bunch of debt. He's like, for real. And they started running around trying to figure out, right, if they could handle this first. And the funny thing is, he put it all on me and sort of my best friend in the unit, who was a Mexican dude. And they came back and said, hey, he said you guys were going to be paying. And he talked to you guys. I go, yeah, you bumped your head, bud. I'm like, you bumped your head. Go talk to your people and figure out what, because we ain't there. No way in hell, dude. I'm like, he and I wasn't even close. I don't know that fool. I didn't know he was leaving.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that done. But my cellie got everything I had. And after 10 years, I had TVs, fans, I had gangs of store. But of course, he was going to get it anyway. He was my homeboy. So, yeah. Yep. He did good when I left.
I always loved that.
Yeah. He would
blessing fool. Never take anything out the door, man. Never take anything out the door. Paperwork. Right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Letters and paperwork. That was it. My $200 check and my bus ticket.
Nurse Who Loved Me says, someone with nothing to lose can be a dangerous person for sure. And you know what? there's nothing worse than people who hate people that, you know, they look at you and they see freedom, something that they're never going to have. And the people that hate that, they really are the most dangerous people in the world. They don't care. You know, that's a good looking kitty. All right, people.
This is Minx, my female.
Yeah. Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
And
Bumper's the other one.
yeah, I thought that that's who I thought that was.
Yeah, no,
It's a good looking kitty. People, see this? That is a cat in a basket. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to call this thing. And the reason is my homeboy is doing this on a different time zone, people. And I'll be honest with you, with the number of hours he works, I'm keeping him up late as hell doing this. But we're going to be back next Sunday. We're going to have one other guest with us. Thank you for stopping by Night Yard. It is always a good time. And we will see you all tomorrow. Between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody. Russ, you're a gentleman and scholar. I love you, my brother.
Thank you, sir. You are
all right,
too.
People. We'll see you on the next one.